Hi Rich, it's Bree with Northland Marketing here, recording you this video to cover a couple of things here. I wanted to start with the law enforcement trainer. So I went ahead and Googled law enforcement trainer CT. We first have a state website that comes up twice, then there's some questions. Policetraining.net is the first one that comes up after the state sites. So if we take a look at theirs, these are actual classes that are being held and when they're being held. It is literally called policetraining.net. That's going to be pretty hard to get in front of from an SEO point of view. I went and took a look at the back end of their website. And so this is a website I use to kind of, like I said, look at the back end of the site and see how powerful they are. This shows me that this is a very legitimate website as expected, and it would be very difficult to beat them out. So this is going to be a website, the trustworthy score with Google. This is going to be the power rating with Google, and I'll kind of explain this here just so you kind of get an understanding of what we're looking at. But these guys are going to be difficult to beat out, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't kind of fall somewhere in around here. But so let's go over what this looks like. One of the main ways you can raise these numbers is through something called a backlink. Essentially, all a backlink is like a shout out or a brand endorsement. If there was another website and they said, hey guys, policetraining.net, they're a really trustworthy site, go check them out, and another website was endorsing this brand, that's a backlink. So we are able to go in here and see what brand endorsements they have and see if we'd be able to attain those for you. And then the keywords. The keywords are things that people would be searching for, like we just searched for law enforcement trainer CT. What this shows us, CT Post Academy. There's approximately 150 people who Google this per month. And I know Academy is probably a little bit more than what you're looking for. You just want to do training, not full Academy. Post training, police academy. So they're really going after a lot of academy words here. If we take a look further down, one of the first training type of ones that comes up is Spectre training. So I took a look at their site, and obviously doesn't look great, but more in line with what you would be looking to do. One of the things I do want to talk about that's going to be really important for your site is, of course, having a beautiful, great looking site. But we also want to have a decent amount of content. You want to have about 1,500 words on your home page. And this is for two reasons. The first reason being is that we simply want to beat out the competitors. If the competitors had 1,000 words, then we want to have 1,500 and so on. The second reason being is that Google has these crawlers, and these crawlers come through and read content. They're trying to figure out what areas you serve, what services you offer, what you're an expert in, essentially like what you're going to be relevant for. The more content, the more helpful content you have, the more of an authority figure you're going to be in the niche. So that's kind of important. The other thing is going to be keywords, like we were just looking at. We want to figure out what those correct keywords are, if there are some, and then, or at least if there are some for Connecticut, and then get those on the site. I took a look at their ratings and Ahrefs here, and it's much better. I mean, these are still, it will take some time. It'll take some time to beat them out. However, these are much more achievable. And if we take a look at their keywords, they've got a lot of things going on here. Please, they must have a bill, they must have a blog talking about a bill. Got a lot of names, their name, post training, post police, commissioner. And we want the location attached to the keywords too. So a little tricky here. This is something that I would really need to do considerable research to try and figure out what types of keywords we would be going after. But in this field, definitely trying to get found for police training. In addition to being found online, I'm sure you already know, you'll want to definitely be making those kind of contacts as well, so people have heard of you and know your name. Now, I went to look at the site that you had sent, and I can see just from the bottom here that it's been around since 2014. I put him into Ahrefs, and it doesn't look like he's necessarily working with an SEO company. It didn't show up for a whole lot of keywords, but I can see he's got a lot of really good stuff on here. He's got training seminars, class registration, their foundation, hosting biography, and more stuff. And it seems like a very legit website. I like the name. I agree that it's probably not the best looking site here. We could do it better, but this is definitely a good starting point just to get an idea. And so with your website, those are kind of the main things that we're going to want to be focusing on. And so we would, we'll have a conversation to get more of an idea about what it is that you guys, or excuse me, that you want to do. We'll go ahead and do the research and then we can put together a proposal. And hopefully this gives a little bit of insight into how we go about auditing these things and putting together a plan. Thanks so much.